place where the magic happens. Conversations flow and the laughter snapping. Here at Netter's Network, where the stories come alive. Every episode's a journey, every guest a drive. Netter's Network, tune in for the show, where the headlines meet the heart, and we all get to know. From the highs to the lows, we've got it all in tow. Netter's Network, where the world's on the go.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Netter's Network Thursday Things. I have a very special guest waiting in the green room. But before I bring him in, let me introduce to you my co-host for tonight. You know him as the guy at the end of the bar, the love of my life, Troy Pacelli. How you doing tonight, sweetie? And what are you sipping on?
I am doing well. And yes, pleased to meet every single one of you, even though I don't see a single commenter in the chat yet that I don't already know. But hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm drinking a lemonade right now. This is my second quart of lemonade tonight. I am hydrating big time because tomorrow's
last call.
Tomorrow's last call, so I need to be hydrated. I am preparing in advance for a major rant tomorrow, and I think you guys are all going to find it very entertaining because the more I drink, the more I rant, and the more I rant, the more you guys laugh.
That's true. I am currently sipping on a Rockstar Pure Zero.
Because you got to keep going.
Well, I've had a long day.
I know.
And I didn't get much sleep last night, so I figured I need something to keep me awake. Before we bring in our guests, let me say hello to the chat. Let me put this someplace where it doesn't fall over. First, and of course, is that Netter's girl saying hello to that Troy guy. And then we have Timey Wimey Limey. How you doing, sweetie?
Welcome. Looks like you're first in the chat today.
Yes. Unless there was somebody that came in before and fell off.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have Lady Miss giving her pretty hearts and flowers. How you doing, sweetie? Connie Cleary saying hello to the chat.
Long time no talk to, Connie.
Scenes, yes. With his salutes. Like, share, subscribe, and become a member.
Thank you, my friend.
Mark Monaco. Kapla, release the Netterbot.
Yes, exactly right.
Yes, I have Netterbots. They're very well trained.
He then goes on to say, Kapla, yes. Success and honor.
Age Boomers that popped in to say hello. How are you doing, sweetie?
Hello, sir.
Geek Flag with Nate. Bonjour, comment ça va? Let's see, who else do we have here? Trying not to let my chat jump. I think I made it down to the bottom without...
Yep. Everyone's saying hi to each other, and I think we're caught up now.
Okay. Well, my special guest for tonight.
Big Al Presents just slipped in under the wire.
Hello, Big Al. How you doing, sweetie? Those of you in the chat know that on Saturday, we will be over on Big Al's channel for another exciting movie rewatch. So now, my special guest for tonight, he's been a guest on Deleted Scenes channel before, so you guys should probably know him.
I think he's a regular over on Deleted Scenes channel.
So let's bring in my special guest, Kyle Corwith. How you doing tonight, sweetie? And what are you sipping on?
I've got a sparkling water and a splash of bourbon.
So, nice. Oh, combination. Okay. I am already endeared to this guest, let me tell you. What specific bourbon are you drinking?
I don't like saying the brands of the bourbon until they pay me.
Oh,
I'll tell you off stream.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. Top, middle, would you say?
In terms of my selections?
No, this particular one is this. Would you say it's top shelf or middle shelf?
It's a hidden gem, I would call it.
Oh. Now I'm really curious.
Yeah, okay, now you got to tell Troy what it is later because...
There you go, there you go.
It's a 50 proof and it's a hidden gem.
I'm going to say
There's another reason why I wouldn't want to say it out loud. Then everyone would start getting
that's
it. You know,
fair. I've had a
Right.
lot of people say that it would be so on brand if I was to get a liquor sponsor, and I think that would be great, but I've never seen those on YouTube. I don't even know if YouTube does that or not, but we'll see. We'll see one of these
Girls
days.
Censor Thoughts a Kapla.
May you bring honor to your stream.
Now, which stream you choose is your choice.
Exactly. That's fair, and I'm glad you guys are all here tonight. I gotta say, and I hope this doesn't make you feel uncomfortable, Kyle. I hope it doesn't make you feel uncomfortable, Netter. You may be the most attractive looking guest we have ever had on the channel. I don't know if I should be intimidated or start questioning myself a little bit.
Well, Kyle is an actor, so
yeah, you definitely do present that that performer ambiance.
yeah, absolutely. So, I know you do movie reviews too, but one of the things I had heard when you were last on Deleted channel is that you are an actor. So, what sort of things have you been in that we might have seen you in?
So I moved to Texas a couple of years ago, and the last project I was on set for was for 1923, and there was no line for me to do. I was just doing background work, but the reason I did it was to just dip my feet back into being on set again, because I had done a lot of the biggest or longest running time and work that I did was on Chicago PD because I'm from Chicago. And so I
awesome.
was a stand-in for about 3 years on Chicago PD, a regular or a prime stand-in or primary stand-in as they call it. And soon afterwards, that's when I decided around the shutdowns in 2020, I decided to pick up and move to Texas. So, yeah.
Okay, well, as a Chicago boy, then you must know our suburb. We're in Streamwood, which is right by Schaumburg.
I know Schaumburg.
Yeah, we're the little town next door.
Yeah, that's what people usually say. They don't know Streamwood, but they do know.
They could throw a rock from end to end, but we're right next door to Schaumburg, kind of by, what's that other suburb that's right there by the train station? I want to say it starts with H.
Bartlett?
Well, there's Bartlett too. Hanover Park, that's the one. So it's like we're kind of between Hanover Park and Schaumburg.
So you know where Arlington Heights is?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I went to CLA there.
Oh, did you?
Yep.
Oh, nice.
I was a little bit more south of here. I grew up in Brookfield. No, not at the zoo, although I think I may have had some relatives there. And went to school in Riverside, Brookfield, specifically. Go Bulldogs. And then DePaul University. And then got married to this beautiful woman over here and moved into the city proper.
Yeah. Whereas I lived in Chicago proper most of my life. When Troy and I got married, the apartment we lived in, he said, okay, if we ever move, we're moving to the burbs. Because he compromised for me being a city girl. We lived in different apartments in the city. And then finally said, you know what? If we have to move again, I want to buy a house in the burbs. I'm like, okay. So the next time we had to move, it's because my building was being sold. So we're like, you know what? Let's just buy that house in the burbs. And that's what we did. And we've been here almost 20 years now.
Then you've always been in Illinois?
Pretty much. I mean, I spent a brief amount of time, less than a year in Kentucky. But that was with my ex, not with this one.
Yeah, I've lived here all my life, although I've been all over the country myself. But yeah. So
and Timey Wimey Limey says Wrigley Field. Yes, I've been to Wrigley Field plenty of times. In fact, I worked there as an Andy Frayne crowd engineer.
I think he was specifically quoting Blues Brothers on that one, though. Yeah, used to go into the city all the time. Used to love going to the parks and whatnot. Don't do that anymore. I avoid the city as much as I possibly can. I have to wonder though.
It's not been going well for the past few years, has it?
It really isn't. Well, we were just talking. Netter had a members stream just before this, and she was telling a story that she got secondhand from me, really. A buddy of mine from college, who's now our attorney, he had a law firm that he used to have an office downtown. One of his associates got carjacked right on the Magnificent Mile.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, he's like, we're done. He closed his law firm and he decentralized, which it was during the COVID thing anyway. So it was like, we should decentralize anyway. It's like, I'm not going to pay for an office downtown anymore. If we need to take depositions or anything like that, we'll, rent an office for the day. And, he said it's been a lot less overhead, a lot easier on the associates, and staying out of the city as much as possible. I'm like, yeah, but you still got to go to court. It's like, well, you choose your battles, I guess.
But probably in Waukegan, though.
Well, that's funny because he has had cases over the border, on actually both borders, because he's had to go into Indiana too. So
really, he's had to go that far.
Sometimes, yeah. Oh, and then when he has to go to Southern Illinois, well, I can guarantee you he won't be up for a game on a Wednesday night when he's.
Oh yeah. If you see me tilt my head to the side, Troy is about 4 feet in front of me, so I'm tilting my head to look around his monitor at him.
I can actually move my monitor,
so I don't have to tilt my head.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't be able to tell because there's no sound interference, as I can tell.
We're on the same mic.
Yeah, we share the same mic.
Yeah, we're sharing a mic. That's why. We literally have a mic between us. Yeah.
Okay.
We share everything.
I know. It's the most bizarre setup because we're rank amateurs, obviously. So we're making this stuff up as we go along. But
we're having fun doing it.
But seriously, so how long have you been so you've kind of given us your background in acting. How long have you been doing that?
Well, I knew it's a hackneyed way of saying it because so many people have. I always knew when I was growing up that I was going to be a performer, blah, blah, blah. From the earliest time when I saw my mom operating the video camera, there are numerous videos, old videos that I have of me 3 years old saying, I want to see it. I want to see it. I want to look through the camera. And I would get very upset when it wouldn't happen. So, and then when I was in front of the camera, I would, my eyes would just like light up and I would start just moving around and entertaining,
natural performer, huh?
Yeah. And as a kid, I mean, sometimes when I've looked back at that kid, I see there's a freedom there that it kind of goes away as you get older, and you kind of want to get it back in terms of that lack of self-consciousness, because I'm not a great auditioner. And auditioning is very nerve-wracking. And I've gone to, I've done cold readings in certain like talent competitions down in Florida about 10 years ago. And it was the first time in a while that I gotten back as an adult into acting. I had done some plays when I was in, grade school and all that stuff, but it really was the first time when I was in my early 20s that I really decided to, all right, I'm going to, take this seriously. So I go down to Florida, and it's got a crowd of like 100 or so people, watching in this hotel conference room. And I'm just kind of a cog in the wheel in terms of people coming up on the stage and doing their thing, whether it be singing, modeling, yada, yada.
Sure.
Mine happened to be acting. And they hand you this monologue, about 10 minutes before you get on. And they expect you to memorize it. And I get on there and it's just, I turn a shell.
No. Wow.
And I only got about a line or two out, and it's a whole paragraph. But it was just very nerve-wracking. And I walked away from that really with your feet kind of burned, because they were held to the fire in terms of what you need to do. And at the end of that week, because you spend a week there, you get to talk to agencies, yada yada, and nothing ever came from it, aside from meeting a few people, of my peers, which I eventually was able to do some things with, because you got selected from a hub in different parts of the country, and mine was Chicago, and so a few people were a part of that. The first short film that I did, I actually utilized that hub, and I invited them to come to the set as extras, as background, but they played a more pivotal role than just people in the background. They were characters, and they were featured. It was a short that was inspired by Screw Tape Letters, and it's a conversation that's ambiguously between God and the devil in a restaurant. And it's between them just sitting at a table together, and everyone's dressed in black, and they're looking up at the wall at something, and they're crying, the people in the background. A conflicting conversation happens between everyone dressed in black and the respective God character, and the devil, who's dressed in blue. The short film is called Black and Blue. It's not released to the public. Actually, the actor who played Black, who was an older gentleman, Rick Plastina, he contacted me. He lost his copy. So he contacted me, and so I'm going to send him a copy of it. And so anyway, the background actors were all a part of that Chicago hub. And they played a pivotal role, and some of them, they gave legit, emotional performances and started crying. And so long story short, the short film is about God and the devil is wanting to get a confession from God saying that he won. Why? What does that mean? There's no specifics until the end, when the devil leaves and says, I'm going to take everyone that I can. Doesn't matter what you do. And then he leaves, and then God stands up, and they're looking. It's revealed. Everyone is crying and looking up at the wall, and it's a TV, and it's the events of 9/11 playing live.
Wow.
So that was the first short film that I wrote as like an adult, and I acted as Blue, the devil. So that was the first time as an adult that I dipped my toe in as like my own stuff, acting, and then from then on, it was slowly getting, doing like PA work on like Steve Harvey show, and and then eventually led me to being a primary stand-in on Chicago PD, which you learn a lot from that. What's specific about being on that show as a stand-in, and some shows do this, but it's not common, is they will require stand-ins to learn the sides. Sides are the small scripts of the pages that they're shooting that day. It's not the entire script of the TV episode. And they will ask those stand-ins on the day, here are the sides, learn the part that you're standing in for, and be off book, so you can perform the actions that you see for first team rehearsal, which are the actual actors. And then you copy that action along with the other stand-ins for the camera guys and the lighting team, so they know how the scene's going to go, and they can adjust the camera angles and lights, and we perform it as many times as they need it to. So
that's really interesting. I wanted to give you an opportunity to bring up Geek Flags.
I did.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that was very kind of you. He says, Kyle, I hope you don't have diabetes, because Netter and Troy are so sweet. Thanks.
I'm getting a sense of that.
Oh, gosh.
And then Jessica Guajardo said, I find it weird that when I auditioned for school play, I was scared to come out and perform, but when I go to Comic-Con and cosplay, I have no problem getting into character. Exactly. Yeah. It's like we've done cosplay so many times. It's so easy to just slide right into that character. Because Troy and I used to do Victorian steampunk. And
we used to do history reenacting, and of course, the more fun,
and of course,
fantasy stuff.
We've done immersive cons where as soon as you walk through the door, you are now your character.
I'm in character, so accent, the whole bit.
I am no longer sounding like this. I'm Lady Elsa Fairfair Flatstone, the Dowager Baroness Ravensworth, and on this way for the entire weekend. And Of course, he's still American.
Yeah. My performance history is a little bit backwards from yours. I started out in grade school. I was in the band in grade school, and the band leader's son was up for a role in a local dinner theater, the part of Winthrop in The Music Man, and they needed ensemble for the boys' band. Obviously, he's like, "Hey, why don't you guys go audition? It would be a great experience." It was an incredible experience. I literally got my union card and, became a professional actor at, I don't know, how old are you when you're in 8th grade?
Let's see. I was 14 when I started
13.
freshman
13
year.
or 14, yeah,
I was 13,
exactly.
yeah.
A performance every night and 2 on Sundays, and that was incredible. An incredible experience. So then when I went into high school and went into theater, it was fun. I was no longer doing it for a paycheck. I no longer felt I had to be professional. And so I was like, yeah, this is fun. I don't think I want to do it as a profession. But everyone that I encountered was like, you're a natural. You really should do this. And I'm like, I don't feel that call. Do you know what I mean? You feel like there's a calling, and if you don't have that calling, you don't do it. You just do it for fun.
Yeah, Geek Flag said, Jesse, when you're doing a play, it's kind of like work, but when you're doing cosplay, you're just having fun.
Well,
just what you just said.
Depends on there's I don't even want to go down the cosplay route, but when it comes to acting, and I was getting a tight chest as you were describing that thing about having 10 minutes to memorize a script, because I know that I'm really good at memorizing. The Catholic grade school, you do a lot of memorization, so I got really good at it. But at the same time, it always got my stomach in knots. So every performance I ever did, regardless of how long I had to prepare for it, I was always, why am I doing this? I say that I'm doing this for fun, but this is not fun. I am never going to act again. I get out on stage and all that is gone. And I'm just in the element. And I'm like, this is why I'm doing it.
So he did one for a church we belong to. Were you
I
Joseph?
was Paul before the Inquisition, yeah.
And it was just him on stage,
Well, it was mostly a monologue, but I'm talking to Agrippa, who was actually up in the balcony behind the parishioners. And he only had a couple of lines. And the
first time the Agrippa spoke, everyone's sitting there going, huh?
They didn't realize they were part. Yeah, it's almost fourth wall breaking, because they're like the gallery I'm speaking to. But I don't know. I feel like there's a little bit more pressure when you're doing it for church. I mean, it's like, you don't want to offend the big cat at the top of the stairs, right?
Yeah, don't swear.
Yeah, exactly. And it was, but, everyone said, man, it was very moving and whatnot. And it's like, yeah, I love to perform, but I couldn't see doing it for a living. So, yeah, I do it for fun now.
CluuStudio dropped a $5 super chat.
Oh,
thank you so much
Clue.
for reading. Saying hello to me,
You're
Troy,
wonderful.
and Kyle.
Well, I have a thought about the difference between performing in an audition versus cosplaying. Having a costume and having that skin on helps a lot. The thing that I get really frustrated by, and this is a true story, years ago when I was in Chicago still auditioning a lot more, it was a self-tape, and they're doing more of those now. But back then, they were sort of in their infancy. So I'm doing a self-tape, and the usual routine is you get in front of a white wall or something, some solid wall color.
Sure.
And I was doing this audition, and I had my wife on the other side of the camera. this particular scene called for the character I was auditioning for to be walking down the street of a metropolitan city and noticing some bikers over there, someone doing yoga and making, gestures over this way, and then sitting down on some steps and all that stuff. Many different actions within the scene. And the thought is, okay, so do you just not do any of those actions? Well, you can't, because you're acknowledging those characters off in the distance. So you got to do something. Yeah, you could just stand there. But when I started doing that scene, I literally just said on camera while it was rolling, and I hadn't submitted it yet, but I didn't care. I just said, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. I'm supposed to do this, I'm supposed to do that, and I have to stand right here in place and not actually do any of those actions, when acting is action. And I'm just talking, and it feels completely unnatural. Well, Kyle, that's a part of the illusion. You're an actor. You're supposed to make believe. So props and costumes and action and all that stuff, I'm not allowed to have or do. And you're expecting me to, like, I'm supposed to be like a crazy person. There's a part of an illusion. Like, you take away the props of a magician. How is a magician supposed to do a card trick without a deck of cards?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so anyway, I submitted that video as a protest, essentially. I knew that they wouldn't get a response. I wouldn't get a response from them.
Yeah.
I didn't care. I just wanted them to know. I wanted someone to know that this is ridiculous. Okay. That these people expect these actors to do these scenes, and they're not realistic or feasible in terms of just any modicum of being reasonable. And I got really frustrated by that.
And then Troy, Mark was talking to you here.
Learning the script for Klingon Christmas Carol in English and Klingon whole was the biggest challenge I had as a designer and backup person on the screen subtitles. Yeah, so the Klingon Christmas Carol was written by a writer, director, and actor named Chris Kidder, who was local to the Chicago area. He started Commedia Beauregard, and basically translated Dickens' A Christmas Carol into Klingon, and then performs it with people, in costume and all in Klingon,
with a Vulcan narrator.
And Mark has been a big contributor to that. Netter and I have gone and practiced the Klingon language with them a couple of times. We went to a couple of their performances in full Klingon armor and makeup. And that's a great example of exactly what you're saying. You put that makeup on, you can't help but be in character. What's his name? Ron Perlman has, he won a Grammy Award for an album he did back in I can't remember. I think it was like late 80s, early 90s. He was on a show called Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
And with Linda Hamilton from Terminator.
Yes. Okay. So you know it. Exactly. And the character was very well educated, and was constantly quoting Shakespeare and so forth. So he did as a soundtrack to the show, they put out a lot of the theme music and incidental music, and in between he would do like Matthew Arnold, sonnets of Shakespeare, and so forth. But he would do it in character as Vincent the Beast. And what I found surprising, but maybe not so surprising, he said that to record those, he sat in a recording booth and recorded, he did his recitation in full makeup and costume. He said because he would not have sounded like Vincent if he wasn't. And I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah,
because he's got the prosthetics and
the
everything.
prosthetics on his face,
it
the
would change the
teeth
way he
and
speaks.
everything changed everything about him. The Klingons, all the actors that play Klingons in Star Trek, talk about how when they learn their Klingon lines, they always practice with those teeth in, because that's going to change how you speak.
Yeah, it's like when I dress as a Klingon, my voice drops a couple octaves.
It does. It really does.
And then it's just like, you know, nok nek, yuchtepul.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so I become more, I think it sounds more threatening because
Yeah.
my voice drops.
You're enunciating
you know,
more. You're more aggressive. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, Klingon females are aggressive. You
Yes.
know.
We like them that way.
We hurl heavy objects at our men while they read us love poetry.
While we read love poetry, which also sounds very harsh. But especially today, when you look at how they're making movies, when like more than half the films are filmed against green screens,
Yeah.
and you have to emote to a beach ball or something like that. At least you have the beach ball to talk. I mean, they there's all these tricks that they do so that your eyesight lines up, so that you can imagine what you're doing. They even have, you know, an actor who does motion capture come in and play the role to you. We were talking about, it was one of the talks we were having with Deleted Scenes on his channel about David Lynch. And we were talking about scenes where people are talking on the phone with someone off screen.
Yeah.
A good actor is going to come in, even if he's not supposed to be on set for that day, but his character is being spoken to. He'll come in and run the lines just to help out his, you know, the other actor, because you should. You're still playing against someone, even if they're not in the same room with you.
And you'll notice that it's, I noticed on some television shows, somebody's on the phone and you can actually kind of hear somebody talking.
That's
through
always
the phone.
put in by the
is it?
The Foley artist afterwards. Well, no, I guess it's not a Foley artist, is it? It's
I figured it
whoever's
was just
doing the sound.
somebody's
editing
running the
afterwards.
other line and you can hear them.
No.
And I'm like, that's cool. They actually have something to react to.
No, see,
So-
and that's not always the case. Sometimes it's just like what Kyle was talking about, where you have nothing and you have to imagine it, which it's got to affect your performance, right?
Although there's a weird thing where if you're a good enough actor, it won't. And I have an example of this, which really surprised me. There was a recent channel that I watched. I can't remember, otherwise I would plug it because he has a good video where he talks about Phone Booth, the Colin Farrell thriller. And it's only like 80-minute movie. It's 2002, where he's stuck in the phone booth and he's being threatened by a sniper up in the skyscraper somewhere. And the whole movie takes place in this phone booth. It turns out, so the character with the sniper, we don't ever see him. It's all on the phone. And it was Kiefer Sutherland on who is the voice. However, when they shot it, it was like one of the producers or a PA doing the lines. Yeah. And there's a clip in that video that from this channel where you heard what it sounded like, and it's quite stilted. So I'm very surprised that throughout that entire shoot, he's acting off of someone who's not a professional actor. Colin Farrell wasn't. He gave that performance that he did. So it can happen, but it certainly is essential as best you can to be able to have those, whether it be a costume or you're acting opposite someone, to have a better, a better situation where the person you're acting opposite is going to actually be able to perform well. You know,
see, I was never what you call a method actor. I understand that a lot of people, especially today, are, but I do understand the momentary kind of not lose yourself in the role so much as lose yourself in the moment, right? There is, especially when you're playing, and again, all of my experience is live theater, so you always have that other person that you're playing to. And sometimes it's just performance gold when you just click, and it's, the lines are always the same every night, but sometimes the intonation has a little bit of a special sparkle to it, you know?
Yeah.
the other performer
hands-on.
does something or has an
Yeah.
inflection that really hits you, and you feel a sense of genuineness to it, and it
Yeah.
makes you get into the scene more. Yeah, that happens, and it's magic, you know.
I agree.
Nate
Transport you.
said, what is your favorite genre of movie to perform in, and what is your favorite to watch?
Oh,
Surprisingly, when I think about that, comedy is something that I like to do. I watched Jim Carrey growing up, and I was bouncing around as a kid, like Jim Carrey, and I was running outside doing circles around the backyard, and we had a big backyard. Which leads into, why did I do circles around the backyard? Because I watched films like Chariots of Fire as well.
oh yeah.
I had quite an upbringing in terms of a collection of movies that I watched, a very eclectic amount of different kinds of films. You got Harrison Ford films like The Fugitive and Indiana Jones that I grew up with, but at the same time, you're watching something crazy like, Ace Ventura and all that stuff. So, I would say it's a good combination of drama, action mixed with and doing something like comedy, I think is appealing to me.
But that question does give us a good pivot point to you are becoming a film critic in a lot of ways, between what you're doing with Deleted and what's your background in that? How did you start doing that? Or was it just not something you planned?
I opened up that YouTube channel in 2007 when YouTube was starting up, and I started doing these. A couple of them are still there. If you go to the back catalog of the videos on my channel, you'll see some of the early stuff that I was doing. The first video that's on there is an impression of Tom Cruise when it was the leaked Scientology
Okay, I can
video.
kind of see that. Okay.
Yeah. So this is like 17 years ago.
Yeah.
And then I started doing these voiceover parodies before bad lip reading.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So that was happening before. And a couple of them, I did one for Fast and the Furious, and it actually got 100,000+ views. And silly me, a few years later, when because I had copyright strikes on them, I thought, maybe this is preventing me from monetizing my channel. Delete it. Okay. So that was not a wise move. So that went dormant after all the other stuff at the beginning of when we jumped on the stream happened, when I went into doing things out in the world and being in the film industry on actual sets for about a decade. And then the 2020 shutdowns happened.
Yeah.
And I took it upon myself to, how about I look at these movies, some of the movies that I really appreciate, and analyze them in a way that is serious and different from anything that I did before on that channel. And the first one I did was about Passengers, which has parallels to dealing with loneliness, etc.
Sure.
And I still think that film is underrated. I did a collaboration when Paul from Off the Cover, he came to Texas, he visited me, and we sat outside in front of a bonfire and had some drinks like this. In fact, I'll have my first sip. And we talked about that film and how underrated it is. So all of that, all of the videos that you see on the channel now are a combination of film appreciation and film criticism. I like to err on the side of film appreciation because you really can, at least I can, I get bogged down with, if I see too much shit, I start to dislike what I'm doing. I don't want that. I want to love movies. And if I see too many movies, I'll get burned out, and I don't want to get burnt out. So there, some people have this perpetual schedule of releasing videos on a routine, and it's good for them. I mean, that's going to get them more popular, but I want to release videos that I put time and effort into and are quality as best I can for where I'm at right now. You know, the video I'm working on right now is with an actor friend of mine in Texas, and he and I talk about the news about James Bond being spearheaded by Amazon. And we speculate about what if they did this? What if they did that? What if Pierce Brosnan came back?
Yeah.
And it's going to be released tomorrow at 5 p.m. Do a little plug for it. And it's going to be called Boomer Bond, The Return of Pierce Brosnan. And we sit down and we recorded for like about an hour, but it's all edited down to 15 minutes.
Sure.
Because it's all concise and it's tight. And that's a different format for, say, this is free form. This is, real time conversation. But in terms of
did you
people,
say this is going to be on Amazon?
No. So that's a video my video that's going to be released tomorrow on my channel, Kyle Corwith. The news about James Bond is now going to be spearheaded by Amazon Prime Video. They're going to be making the creative decisions about that. So me and Benjamin J. Slack, another actor, he and I talk about that. And we had done other collaborations before on my channel. So anyway, a long story short and a long-winded answer. The idea is to have film appreciation. And instead of, say, like, there are a couple of films that I didn't like that were released this year. And I have criticism about it. Novocaine was a film that came out. It's not a huge hit. It was #1 at the box office this past week. It's a decent film, but I have qualms with the fact that there are Nepo children in that film. And I have a strong theory that Nepo children are saturating the Hollywood market or the acting market and pushing out the potential original new Tom Cruises, Julia Roberts, Sandra Bullocks, and Harrison Fords that could happen, but they're stifling and pushing them out of the room, and the doors get closed because they get favoritism for various reasons, whether it be the filmmaker wants to just have a connection to Jack Nicholson's son. Are you kidding me? I'm going to have him in my film. Oh, Dennis Quaid's son, get him in there. You got two Nepo children. Actually, the female lead in that movie doesn't have a famous parent, but she was in the film industry. So you got basically 3 leads in one film that have their parents that were connected to the industry. I have a problem with that because, and you might say, Kyle, it's because you have you're jealous about that kind of stuff. I'm thinking about these other actors because I'm nowhere near all that stuff where they're casting all that. And I'm not worried about it. And plus the fact I'm not really auditioning that much in Texas right now to begin with. I've been working behind the scenes in script analysis and script consulting in Texas for the past couple of years. So it's not about that. It is about the consideration of these other actors, like the next Tom Cruises or Harrison Fords, that won't be able to become that because of the saturation of these Nepo children. So there's a criticism that I have. And if I make a crusade about it on my channel, then that's what you'll know me for. It's the guy who hates Nepo babies. But I would like to be known as the guy who appreciates film and celebrates it most of all. So that's why when I have a video to release, occasionally there will be a video to, let's sacrifice this little thing and have some, variety and all that. But on the majority, film appreciation, even if it's a film that's old. That's the thing. I just released a video about Godfather. With Ben and
I saw that on your channel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like, and speaking of Kyle's channel, pinned to the top of the chat is a link to Kyle's channel. Make sure
it's also in the description below. Yes. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. I suspect many of you already are, such as Sin's Corner, who I just saw jump in here. I know she's subscribed. Oh, Sashi's
another good channel.
Yeah, Sashi's here too.
Sin is pretty great because she makes video. What's that?
I said hi to Jessica Guajardo.
Mm-hmm.
I was just saying that I wanted to talk about Sin is she has a good output of videos, but she also has that standard of, if I'm not feeling it, if I don't care about the movie that I just watched, hey, Spin, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So if she doesn't care about the movie that she watched, she'll probably only do a short, like a YouTube short, and commit that much time to it, or nothing at all. You know, she won't commit her, and I respect that a hell of a lot. You know, when she did the review for Joker 2, she just started the video with just
Yeah.
and it was just quiet. And I thought that was brilliant, because the expectations that video creators have is that talk. No,
Right.
but I think it's important to, when it's necessary, to have those moments where you're seeing someone think and react. You know,
I agree.
it sounds a little pretentious when I say that, but I find it interesting when I can see someone reacting. You know what the topic's about, so you see that subtext there. And
it's a form of communication that I think
exactly
too many people have lost. Sometimes nonverbal communication says so much more than what you actually say. But speaking of what you actually say, I did want to because you know, I feel strongly about this, and I know I get picked on by my audience occasionally for this. I want to point out that Kyle said something about film appreciation. You notice how he pronounced it. He said appreciation. That's exactly the way
I did.
Yeah, and that's exactly the way I pronounce it. There's a lot of it's that diction. It's thinking through, regardless of how I usually hear people pronounce words, what do I feel is the correct way to pronounce it? The only difference is you then said something about the schedule that you put film your videos out. It would have been schedule if I had said it. See, I
have an amalgamation of a variety of different ways that I pronounce things. There's one word that just comes to mind that is often mispronounced. More so, they literally add letters to the word, and that bothers me a lot. It's mischievous. That doesn't make any. Those letters are not in there. It's mischievous. It's not mischievous.
Yes,
it's mischievous.
Yeah. Well, and for me, that all comes from. I love words, and I love to study the etymology of the words. So when you know where the word comes from, it's like, you know how it was intended to be pronounced and what's happened to it over time. So you, when it comes to words like appreciate, schedule, issue, look at how it's spelled, right? Issue, ISSUE. There's no H in there. Okay, I got to have about 3 fingers of whiskey before I start to slur my words. Just saying.
Troy's also a big Anglophile, so
there is that too. So.
And that, I know part of that is, I think part of the reason that he fell for me is because my mother is from Lancashire, England.
Yeah.
So my grandmother's Welsh, my grandfather's Scottish, and I've got Irish relatives. So my accent comes out every once in a while.
I love how she goes through like 3-4 accents in one sentence.
Does it take a bout of drinking for it to come about?
That's like,
not even.
I don't even have to have a drink in order for my Scottish to come out. But it's like since my mother's from Lancashire, God bless her, so she was from Lancashire. She had her accent almost my entire like up to my teenage years. I would hear it more, and then I would only hear it whenever she was on the phone. So it was like she kind of became a little bit more Americanized with her accent. But then if she was on the phone, you would really hear her English accent come out.
See, she makes it difficult because I really get into accents, but I mean, just like we have so many different accents here in the United States, that little tiny island has a whole lot of accents depending on where you are. And it says a lot about where you're from. And,
Yeah, it's like you got Cockney over here. You got Londoner over here. And
socioeconomic status and so forth.
I have a writer friend who lives in England, and she makes a point of, she wrote a script, and she has different terminology and slang in there that I've never heard of.
Sure.
And she talks about the accents in the different regions, and there are a whole lot. Yeah.
Well, I was talking. These streams all run together in my head, but it was within the past week we were talking about this and how different accents, especially, you know, if you're in British television or film, the accent they choose for a character is kind of a subtext. It tells you about them, their background, you know, whether or not they're more or less educated, you know, wealthier or poorer, you know. And I said, you could kind of do the same thing here in the United, and I'm sure they do. You know, whether you've got a Boston accent or you got a Midwestern accent or a Southern accent, you know, is going to tell you something about the character, at least their background. Funny thing is about this is that some people think I am Canadian, especially when I was in high school. Oh, there you go.
What's really funny is that on my father's side, I am French Canadian.
So there you go.
So I'm French Canadian on my father's side, and I'm English, Welsh, Scottish, and Irish on my mom's side.
And I have an obligation to ask everybody that I interact with now who that does film criticism. You are registered and contributing on criticlist.com, right?
I'm not.
Okay. Well, I'm going to drop the link again for all of you guys. I hope you all get over to Well, actually, it's coming out under Netter's name because this is her channel. But
and then Sashi says, wait till you get to hear Malaysians speak. We weave in Chinese, Malay, and Indian into it. That sounds complicated.
yeah, I would imagine so. Criticlist is a God, Sin, how would you describe it?
How would you pitch this?
It would be like an up-and-coming social network site for people doing film criticism and people that are looking to find out what other people think about it. It's kind of like, think of Rotten Tomatoes if Rotten Tomatoes was good.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it didn't go down the toilet, yeah.
Okay, so she's saying a more friendly version of Letterboxd. I've heard of Letterboxd from deleted scenes, so I get that idea too. But I know that she and Deleted are both registered over there. Tom Connors from Midnight's Edge is registered over there. I'm registered over there, even though I don't really do, you know, film criticism. Who knows? Maybe one day I will. But for now, I'm just going over there to see what other people have to say about movies. Because honestly, I just tried going to Rotten Tomatoes just recently for just to see what they were saying about Snow White, and I was confused. I'm reading the reviews that sound so negative, and then it'll have a fresh, or it'll be the green splat, but they're saying all this beautiful glowing stuff about it, and it's like, this makes zero sense.
Yeah.
So do you like it or not? I don't get it. So
yes, Jessica Harder, Rotten Tomatoes is a kind of like a movie critic review site, which used to be good. It's not anymore.
I don't know if it was ever good. Just
I think
stick with
back in the
Criticlist.
day it was, but not
Stick
anymore.
with
Yeah.
Criticlist.
I will check that out now. Yeah. You
problem.
You just mentioned a possible safe haven from all.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is, it's this kind of democratizing of the media, kind of like, you know, what social media in some areas is becoming for the news. You know, you have your mainstream shills, and then you got your average person just sharing what they think, and you can just kind of go in and take it all in.
Yeah, Sin says if you're a YouTube creator, you can get an upgraded type of account so you can review movies before their release. That's the type of account she has.
Oh, there you go.
I'll look into this. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, see that's Sin. She's like that, like one of those professional type reviewer types, you know.
Yeah, she gets to get to these screenings, and how do you do that?
She's up in the Siskel and Ebert, you know, echelons. I think
I've a few times gotten to go to early screenings. Like the earliest one I got to go to was last year for Mad Max Saga Furiosa. Just called Furiosa.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got to see that about a week and a half or 2 weeks before at the IMAX theater in downtown Austin. So yeah, that was cool because we did a live stream a day afterwards, and I got asked a bunch of questions, and I was just not saying anything, because I wanted to save it for my review. I wasn't just being a jerk. So
No, yeah, I get it.
The last movie I got to see before anyone else, it was just a special viewing. Like, I think I won a contest, and it was to see The Devil Wears Prada. So there was like a group of maybe 50 to 75 of us that got to go to a specific theater in downtown Chicago and see this film before anyone else, because we all won this contest or whatever to see it. So I thought that was kind of cool, because I'd read the book and I wanted to see how the book and the movie kind of like, okay, where does it veer off? Because the movie always veers off. And it's like, okay, yeah, that part didn't happen till later. That didn't quite work the way they're doing it in the movie. It was better in the book, and that sort of thing.
The only film that I ever got to an advanced viewing of, I went to a sci-fi convention. I was pretty young at the time, and I was pretty new to conventions, and someone was handing out these free passes, and it was like for the next day, in the city, and I was like, I could do this thing. And it was a sci-fi film with James Caan and Mandy Patinkin. Besides deleted scenes, does anyone else know what the movie was?
James Caan and Mandy Patinkin. I've probably seen it, and
Oh, you have. You absolutely have. And I know that the chat has a 30-second delay, so we have to kind of give them a little bit of time to think about it. You're thinking, you're like, I can't even imagine what sci-fi film was Mandy Patinkin in, right?
I know. I'm thinking Mandy Patinkin. Okay, I am Indigo Montoya. You killed my father.
But it's hard it's hard for me to think of another film that
Sin is close, but you are wrong. Because Enemy Mine was Louis Gossett Jr. and Dennis Quaid. You are close. They made a TV series of it with other actors, of course.
Well, I know it wasn't Stargate.
Yes. Alien Nation. Oh. That's right. It was Alien Nation.
Was this a TV movie though?
No, it was a theatrical release, and that's why I came to realize after the fact. That's why they were giving away the free passes. Mm-hmm. Nobody knew what this was, and this was part of the marketing. They were trying to get sci-fi fans to go see it and then spread the word of mouth. And that kind of really helped the movie to take off, and that's why it eventually ended up getting a TV series after the fact.
You keep chatting. I will be right back.
Fair enough. But, yeah. And in fact, my mother took me to see it because she's like, oh, I like James Caan. I'm like, okay, fine. And, she was going on and on about how hot she thought he was. And I'm like, he's an old guy. She's like, well, I'm old. I'm like, okay, yeah, fair enough. But
what year was this?
Oh, gosh. When did it? Well, it was, like I said, it was a week before it was released. All I got to do is look it up. Alien Nation was 1988. Yeah, that was 1988. So that was like my junior year in high school.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, I was picturing early 2000s time. No, that was.
Oh yeah, that was way back.
So he wasn't old at that point.
Well, to a junior in high school, he seemed old.
Yeah, fair. Yeah.
But and in fairness too, the previous film that I had seen him in was Brian's Song. So there was a big, that's about a 15-year gap or so. So he did seem a lot older to me.
Well, this all makes sense why I really haven't heard of it. I haven't seen it.
Because it's before your time. You're young.
I wasn't alive. I was dead.
Oh, gosh. I never thought of it that way.
I know. I thought of it, a few years back, like the idea of what that, if you could use that phrase before you were born as you were dead, because
I guess.
But then again, like, your soul wasn't created. That brings up a whole existential discussion of like, did your soul exist beforehand? Did God drop it into the egg and in the sperm and the egg meat, or that kind of thing? You just
Well,
dropped
even-
back into this, and we're talking about conception.
Yeah, like,
and souls.
even beyond that, though, you start to get into the true metaphysics of, does the soul pre-exist your creation?
Yeah.
So, like, do souls exist in the guff, as some mythologies believe, and God plucks it out and then puts it into, or, you know, so yeah. But I guess if dead is anything other than alive, I think that that sense of it probably works. But yes, I would recommend, if you get a chance, just out of curiosity, check out the series. Was good, but it was you know, late 80s, early 90s sci-fi TV. Definitely see the movie. It was a very good one. You know, for everyone who nowadays talks about social commentary and wokeness and blah 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 blah, this movie very, very clearly was not even hiding the fact that it was talking about immigration and you know,
Now,
integrating culture into society and so forth.
If you have a sensitive stomach, though, you should know beforehand that the aliens drink sour milk.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, just like
bad
you
milk.
and I would drink, you know,
So
scotch,
if you've
bourbon,
got a sensitive
whiskey,
stomach, just
they drink sour milk.
yeah, I wanted to forewarn you on that, because every time I saw him pick up a carton of
Chunky milk.
yeah, I just gagged.
Yeah, that's a little different. It ain't fermented.
But yeah, well, but yeah. But yeah, I definitely recommend checking it out. There's a lot of great humor in it. There's Mandy Patinkin plays it's a buddy cop movie.
Yeah.
But one of the cops is a grizzled old, you know, detective, and his partner is an alien, and James Caan is just racist. He hates these aliens, and it's very clear what they're going for, and I think they do it very well. And Mandy Patinkin plays this alien character very similar to in terms of the humor of it, kind of like well, this one might be before your time too, but Bronson Pinchot, who played
Cousin Larry?
no, the other one, Balky in
Balky.
Perfect Strangers. You know, the immigrant who doesn't get the culture, and you know, is constantly making mistakes and misunderstanding and stuff like that. It's a little bit lighthearted, but it's still a good drama, and in a sci-fi setting, it's I would definitely check that out if you get a chance. But I hope when I mention Brian's song, you know that movie.
I don't.
Ooh.
It was a required watch for me when I was in grade school.
You went to Brian Piccolo.
Because I went to Brian Piccolo grade school.
Yeah, but we read the book in high school.
Yeah, I read the
Brian's
book
song.
long before then.
And it's again for Chicago boy, you got it. This was the Bears, Papa Bear Alice.
This was required reading.
Yeah. And Gail Sayre and Brian Piccolo, the Chicago Bears, and I can't even think about this movie without getting a little teary-eyed. Again, it's James Caan and
Gail Sayers.
yeah, who played he was the Colt 45 guy. He was Lando Calrissian.
Yeah, guys.
Billy D. Williams. Billy D. Williams and James Caan, right? And so Billy, I'm not really spoiling anything because we're talking about history here, but you know, these two great athletes. Thank you, timey-wimey-limey. I mean, you're on the 30-second delay. Otherwise, you guys would have gotten it to me.
All three of them. Billy D. Williams.
Come on, man. Billy D. Williams.
I looked up both of those on my phone, and I'm noticing that the trend is that they're before my time. You know, so
yeah,
I'm trying to catch up. You know, one of the biggest ones is the Godfather trilogy. So that's part of what that video, the reason it exists is I saw the Godfather for the first time and recorded my reaction talking to, you know, my friend about it. So
the reason I'm bringing up Brian's song as strong as I am is because somebody on social media just recently, you know, they do these things where they rope you in to, you know, interact, and they'll drop a little movie clip and they'll go, what is your favorite, like, speech? Yeah, James Caan was also in The Godfather. Good point. What's your favorite movie speech? And someone dropped like Jack Nicholson from A Few Good Men and so on and so forth. And I dropped the speech that Gail Sayers, Billy D. Williams gives as Gail Sayers about Brian Piccolo. I'm trying not to break down here. It's powerful stuff. So,
Well, you're giving a good endorsement. I have it written down, so
yeah,
I have a huge watch list of many different.
But Godfather, you've got a video up right now about
Mhm.
Godfather on your channel that came up fairly recently. You've
Yeah,
only just seen the first one.
Correct. The entire trilogy I haven't seen, and so post watching it, that's when I've sat down. We go out back and we light a fire and have some cigars and have some bourbon. Yeah, and we talk about it. We talk about it for at least an hour, and then it's edited down, concise and tightly.
Yeah.
And we just recorded a few days ago part 2 reaction. So that's in editing right now.
So you have seen Godfather Part 2 now?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you have not yet seen Part 3?
Yeah, correct. And here's the thing about it is next time we sit down for the Part 3 version is we're kind of going to be talking about 2 films. How so? Because they're 2 versions of Godfather Part 3.
Yes, there are.
Here's the Coda version, the recut version. So,
I have, but have not seen yet the Coda version myself.
And here's something that's interesting. I'm married to an Italian. I mean, come on, Pacelli, it's Italian, you know? I didn't see the Godfather movies until just a couple of years ago. And he's like, what do you mean you never seen them?
Yeah, that's required reading or watching here, yeah.
So we sat down and we watched all 3 movies at once over a weekend.
How did that go for you? So I'm really curious about this because I haven't talked about my reaction to the films.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think about that?
I liked the movies because I've seen other mob movies before, but this was supposed to be like the monster movie.
Grand.
Well, not just that; it's considered by many and most to be the greatest film of all time.
Yeah.
So
it was a very interesting film. I had seen snips of it, over the course of years, but I'd never seen the whole movies or any of the movies. And he's like, we got to watch these. So we just did one right after the other over the course of a weekend. And so I got to see everything. And it was almost kind of like, the second movie was a continuation of the first movie, and you're seeing different perspectives and all that. And you get the third movie and there's another perspective there. And it was kind of like, what was that mobster movie we watched? It was a series. No, I'm sorry. Not
Sopranos.
No, I'm sorry. The one where the one guy, and I guess it was a movie.
Okay.
I'm thinking about it.
Give me something to work with, though.
Who was in it?
He kills a captain.
Goodfellas,
yeah. I just got to tell him one part and he knows.
Yeah.
And it's like,
the mob movies I know. Let's be honest.
Well, Troy, I mean, that happens in Godfather 2. Not Part 2, but Godfather 1. That also happens.
Okay. In fairness, there's also the element of me knowing how she thinks.
Yeah.
So when she focuses on a certain one, I know which movie she's.
Yeah, I'm not going to know that nuance, but just
right.
Yeah. So here,
a technical smart ass that I am.
Be now promoted to captain. Instead, he walks into a room and he's just killed. He's just blown away.
Well,
because you don't kill somebody like that,
What she didn't tell you was her first experience with the Godfather. So, without getting too much into our history, we kind of eloped, and I didn't have a lot of contact with my family until we'd been married for some time. And so the first time she's having Christmas with my cousins, we go over to my cousin's house. And she's like nervous meeting the family. I'm like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. We get to the door, ding dong. They open the door, and I had forgotten family tradition. They watch The Godfather every year at Christmas time. And so we got there just and they got this brand new TV with the surround sound and all this kind of stuff. We got there at the toll booth scene where, speaking of James Caan, he's getting, Sonny's getting,
That's a
And
fantastic
I'm like,
scene.
hey, Merry Christmas.
I knew that was going to happen, but it still surprised me because I actually like that character a lot. Even though people call him he's the hothead, he's unpredictable, he can't carry on the business. I thought he was really noble in trying to protect his sister, and I really relate to that. So I felt knockered a little bit that he got taken out like
absolutely that. And you're supposed to. That's exactly what they're going for. I have to be very careful and don't want to say too much about Godfather 3 because it is I'm sure you've already heard people's opinions and thoughts and stuff which are already going to flavor, you going into that. And I hate that because I really want to hear people what their pure reaction to that is, because mine
with little influence as possible.
Yeah, mine is very different from so many others. So I'll be very, very much watching to see what you have to say about it when you get your video.
Now I have to ask, have you watched Johnny Dangerously?
Oh,
no, I've heard. It sounds familiar though.
Yeah,
Michael Keaton.
It's a comedy mob movie with Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton,
in a musical.
Joe Piscopo, Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
There's actually a lot of jokes in it that it's going to be hard because there's like this one joke that most younger people won't get because you have to know commercials back in the 70s. There's this bit where Johnny Dangerously, played by Michael Keaton, is trying to bump off, here we go again, the captain of another mob family, played by Danny DeVito. How does he do it? They go to a restaurant, they sit down to have a talk or whatever, and he goes, let me get drinks, let me have them bring drinks over. And the waitress comes and brings a drink, and it's clearly a beer bottle. And he goes, here, you start, I'll be right back. And he goes, what is this? He goes, read the label. And he looks, Danny DeVito drinks it and he tastes it. He's like, that's really good. And he looks, he goes, malt liquor. And then he looks up and all of a sudden a bull is crashing through the front window and runs him over. Well, Schlitz malt liquor used to have this ad campaign where you take a drink and the bull would smash through the front window or whatever, but he gets trampled and killed, and that was the assassination, and that's why it's a joke. But you wouldn't get that because that's a cultural touchstone. So
this is a parody film. This is satire.
Oh yeah, it's a comedy. Okay. Yeah,
nice.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wait until he's trying to teach his brother about your testicles and you.
You got me convinced with that. By the way, yeah, great. You know how to recall these things and play them out verbally.
Netter has said that to me many a times. One of my favorite movies. I had never seen before, and I would get together with that attorney that I mentioned, my buddies and whatnot. We played D&D, and they were quoting this movie all the time, and I'm like, where are these lines coming from? And they're like, you've never seen Heartbreak Ridge? I'm like, no, what is that? Oh, it's Clint Eastwood, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, you know what? We're not playing D&D tonight. We are going to watch Heartbreak Ridge. And so I watched this movie with them, and it was brilliant. It was great. And I get home, and Netter's like, was it a good game? I'm like, we didn't play tonight. She's like, well, what did you do? And I start telling her like about, Heartbreak Ridge and all these lines. And she's like, man, that doesn't sound like the kind of movie I'd be interested in, but the way you describe it, I really want to see it.
Yeah.
And it's now one of her favorite movies.
Yeah, right. Because he goes, well, it's this kind of war film, and that's not my type of movie. But then when he started, talking about, the gunny sergeant and the
Stitch Jones, the Ayatollah rock and roller,
and this bit that's kind of a continuous, almost like a gag through the film of them trying to wear the same shirt as Gunny, because Gunny tells them,
we are wearing
you're not wearing the same shirt.
Gunny.
He goes, yes, we are. He goes, same as me. And they're like,
how will you both know what you're going to wear?
Yeah.
You're Marines. You overcome. You adapt. Oh, yeah. Great movie. Great movie.
Great one-liners in there. Like there's one where
you could start a whole series on your channel and call it like Films Before My Time.
That's not even a
There's this,
that's not a joke. That's
lieutenant's like,
That could
yeah.
actually be something cool. Yeah.
could be
And he
something.
says
It could
something
be
like,
its
"I
own
won't be able
segment.
to make maneuvers today. I've got a doctor's appointment." And
Oh,
Clint
but
Eastwood's
nothing
character
keeps
is
you out of
like,
the next war.
"Well, I hope it's nothing that keeps you out of the next war, sir."
It's not a comedy, but there is a lot of funny stuff in it.
Yeah, there's some funny lines.
He's an old gunnery sergeant who's getting ready to retire, but he gets called in to
Basically, shape up these
shape
guys.
up the new recruits that are just they have no discipline, and
They are basically a clusterfuck.
but he's trying to get his life together. He's had problems with alcoholism. He's broke, he and his wife are split up, but he's never gotten over her. And he's really trying to turn himself around. So he's got like all these women's magazines,
Yeah, like
and
Women's
he's trying
Day
to
and
understand,
Cosmo.
and at one point he's reading these magazines because he's trying to understand, his ex. And, she comes out to the truck and she sees him, she sees these magazines, she goes, What are those? Whose are those? And he goes, Juzu, his old partner. And she goes, Juzu can't even read. And then he starts talking with her and he's like, I want to know what happened in our relationship.
Mhm.
And she goes, relationship? I thought we were married. It's
Nice.
just,
Uh-huh.
it's brilliant. Yeah, you got to check it out, man. Okay, we've given you all your homework, so we don't want to overload you. So what have you got coming up in the near future on the channel? I mean, obviously the Godfather 3, we know that.
Right. So that'll happen, and we're going to be talking about two films essentially, or intermingled, and compare and contrast them.
Mm-hmm.
But so in editing, I have Godfather Part 2 discussion.
Mm-hmm.
The next video apart from that night, we talked about a separate topic that I mentioned before, is what I call Boomer Bond. That'll be the title, and the return, the possible consideration of what they could do with the new James Bond iteration, and possibly bringing back Pierce Brosnan. And we talk about that and review some of the films that he was in, and we got some discussion and disagreement about those films, and it's a lively conversation, and it's fast paced. Yeah, so it's fun. That's part of the idea of the videos that I want to do, and the segment that I have for that type of video that's more off the cuff is called Impromptu View. And normally I started off where it's just this. It's just the black void, and I'm talking to the camera, talking to the audience. But now I've implemented a version where it's like the fireside chat version of that, and it's more interesting to me to have a back and forth. So that's what I like. I'm liking right now doing is inviting people over, and having those discussions. I have a friend who's also a lawyer, and we're figuring out what movie we could discuss, and he would bring his knowledge into the conversation about a film that is a legal related film. So
Legally Blonde.
right, so that's the idea of like, what are the films that are courtroom dramas, or somehow related to
My Cousin Vinny
system.
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh yeah,
That one's come up a lot. That one definitely.
I would imagine so.
And who knows, that might be the one we end up doing, because I gotta say, that one is the one people have brought up the most, is My Cousin Vinny.
Of course, A Few Good Men, but that one's done to death.
Right, yeah, that's the go-to. Yeah. We have a few more considerations. There's a civil action, The Fugitive, kind of, sort of deals with the judicial system. Fracture.
12 Angry Men.
12 Angry Men I haven't seen, so that would be a film to do as well.
Another before your time, I think. That's actually my time, if I'm honest.
I'm not from the 50s.
57, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, Jesse Guajardo said, Inherit in the Wind.
There you go.
Okay. There
Inherit
you
the
go.
Wind is another one. Yeah, because when you look up, because I did a search on Google, I was like, what are, courtroom dramas, courtroom movies? You don't get a lot of the results of what you just said.
Mississippi Burning.
that stuff, that film, the film I just mentioned before, Fracture, with Anthony Hopkins and Ryan Gosling. People don't, that one, kind of, no one talks about that film, but I think it's a real smart thriller, actually. Crafty thriller. People don't talk about it.
I just went to Google. I typed in courtroom drama movies, and I got The Rainmaker, Juror Number 2, A Time to Kill, A Few Good Men, 12 Angry Men, The Judge, Just Mercy, Devil's Advocate.
Oh, Devil's Advocate. That's less of a. That's
The Trial of the Chicago 7.
Oh, yeah.
Runaway Jury, The Lincoln Lawyer. It's like, it gave me a whole bunch.
One thing that we didn't get into tonight, and we probably won't have time now. I'm actually surprised that none of us thought to bring it up sooner. Because I do think the chat would be interested in knowing, if we look at your IMDb right now, one of the films that comes up that our audience would kind of perk up to find out about, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
So maybe you need that to show that as a Monday night at the movies.
No, we won't be doing that. If anything, we'll find whatever clip he's in and just show that.
Yeah, unfortunately, so I was on set. Unfortunately for
it was a crowd scene, right?
It sort of. It was the flashback scene at the beginning of the film with the parents getting shot. Bruce Wayne's parents getting shot, and I was one of the theater patrons coming out of the theater, and I crossed paths with those actors and young Bruce Wayne. They were shooting on IMAX for one of these shots, and it was coming down in a crane, and they took a long time to do that. And I think at some point they just said, "This is taking too long. We're going to stop." But I got to watch Zack Snyder direct. He came up, and he was 5 feet away from me talking to the actors, and it was really cool to be that close to the action. And I watched him, something that I gained respect for, even though I have problems with his films, especially when he writes them.
Yeah.
But what I saw that night was someone who was immensely committed to what he does, and he cared about the time, because he was running back and forth to the actors from them to back to Video Village.
Wow.
I've never seen that before on any, because I've seen many directors on Chicago PD coming onto set. None of them really did that. And Zack Snyder was the only director I've seen that literally he ran from the actors all the way back to the crew to say action.
Wow.
Never seen that before. And I've never heard anyone else talk about that.
I have a question for you. For Chicago PD, were you standing for a specific actor or for different actors?
No, I was assigned to Pfluger.
Wow.
Okay.
Number 5 on the call sheet.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool.
Because it's all based on height and coloring slightly. So I have like this coffee brown kind of hair color, and I'm 6'2". So
perfect. Makes sense.
That works.
It worked out in that way.
All right. I think I'm done. I don't have anything else, man.
Well, see, tomorrow night over on Last Call, Troy will be ranting.
Tomorrow night I will be ranting and drinking, and the two kind of spiral together. You guys will all find it very, very entertaining, I'm sure. Netter will try to keep me from, blowing a gasket.
I'll just keep plying you with liquor.
We will be...
You'll fall asleep. You'll be fine.
I will be talking about, and Boomer will be trying to steer me as we talk about a toy company that hates toys and you, Hasbro.
Yeah.
That is going to be, And I'm gonna hit the D&D thing. I'm gonna hit the Pinkerton thing again. I am not letting that damn thing go with the magic cards and the YouTuber.
No, that was the most ridiculous thing.
Oh, you don't even know the half of it. The getting political with toy prices, and I still hate their distribution model. And we might have a special guest tomorrow, at least for part of the stream. I think since we're talking Hasbro, you probably know who I'm talking about, but I don't want to say in case he can't make it. So,
and then on a happier note, on Saturday we'll be on Big Al's channel for. Do you remember the name of the movie?
Deleted, help us out here. I want to say it's like Inferman or something like that. Some sort of a Spectre Man, Japanese kaiju. I don't know. Evelyn Hampton's the one who recommended it, so we know it's going to be
a bad film.
A bad film, but hopefully bad in a good way. I think it'll be an interesting watch.
Well, we're waiting for Deleted.
Maybe I'll break my rule and have something to drink on Saturday night too, just to get through that.
Is Saturday not a drinking day?
No, Friday's my drinking day.
Okay.
She only allows me to drink on Friday nights.
Mm-hmm.
Every other night I gotta freeze it and eat it like a popsicle. Anyway. Inferman, I was right.
Alcohol doesn't freeze, so
yeah, right. But
and then let's see, Sunday at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern will be Geeky Geezers,
where we will bring you the geek news that we found interesting this week.
Yep. Oh, and before I forget, if you stay right here, you'll be redirected to Deleted Scenes channel for another exciting episode of
Coming Attractions.
Coming Attractions. Oh, yeah. What's he calling it?
I know he changed the name of the show, so I had to think about that. And he'll tell you all that he's got coming up.
Yes.
This week. So,
and then see on Monday.
Nah. Let's just get us through the weekend. But who's your guest next week?
Speaking of deleted scenes, I just noticed a comment. I just wanted to point out. Deleted scenes just mentioned that Fracture is a good one too.
Ah, okay.
He knows
Fracture. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. See, he's definitely one of those. Him, Sin, Now Yourself. Definitely look to you guys because I just don't trust the so-called professional shill media anymore.
Yeah. And Lady Miss being a cheerleader saying, wonderful show.
I hope you guys are all subscribed to this guy because, well, you saw he's pretty cool and you're going to like his channel. So make sure you're subscribed.
Yeah, Jesse Quajardo did subscribe to your channel. So you got at least that one. I think most everyone else should already be sub to because of you being on Deleted's channel. And we have a lot of the same community members. So
right.
Crossover.
Yeah, there's crossover. But for the people who didn't know you, now they know you. So that's the whole reason that I invite people onto my channel so that people that don't know you can get to know you, and then you get more subscribers, and then they say, hey, I know this Greek guy that I just saw on Thursday Things. And
just a reminder, everybody, don't just go subscribe. Start watching his videos. I mean, that's why we send you there, because you're gonna like his stuff, and let's get him the watch time because we want to start becoming members of his channel.
Exactly.
That's really specific. I really appreciate the specificity of that. Yeah, that's really great. Because it's not just like there's a lot of time that I put into doing those videos. I take days to do them, and it's time consuming in terms of getting the specific cuts, and I'm it's very tailored in terms of different music. That if I'm doing a specific film, for example, I try to find music that is in the tonality of that particular film, so there's a tailoring to the videos, even though it's technically like my side project. That's not the thing I want to do forever, but I could see myself doing it on a consistent basis, even if I'm writing scripts and I sell this or I'm on set, yada yada. I would still want to do that because I love sitting down and talking about films, whether mostly, like I said, appreciating them or holding certain filmmakers and actors to the fire. It's like that didn't work, because I think you do need that. And being on live streams and all that stuff, I enjoy it. I do.
Absolutely. And these guys here all know they're big channel supporters. They'll go and they'll hit those like buttons. They'll drop the comments to give you some feedback and encouragement. Hear me, guys? Don't let me down. You make me look bad. So make sure you do all those things.
Yeah.
No, I felt I heard some Midwest accent. You guys do those things, okay?
You do
make sure you guys do those things, okay?
Exactly.
All right.
And those aren't books behind me. Those are all movies.
Those are all DVDs
and Blu-rays.
Yeah.
We own over 1,000 movies. We're probably closer to 2,000 by about now.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And I'm going through them one by one every other Saturday night. So this week is Big L. Next week will be me.
And you don't remember what the next movie is.
I know it starts with an F. And that will be, where to go? Retro Cinema. Fist of Fear.
Bruce Lee.
Yes, it'll be a nice Bruce Lee film.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
That one
So,
I think I
good
have
stuff.
seen.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah, it's like I grew up with Bruce Lee, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's like him and Jackie Chan. Love those guys.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right.
Guys committed to
done.
doing practical stunts, and now Tom Cruise is, the
Yeah.
last actor doing that in the mainstream. Jeez.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
That's what I
Yeah,
mean.
but
That's
you-
what I was like. Let's get the next Tom Cruise in here, and have
Wait,
actual
real quick before
actors
real
coming
quick
in based on
before-
merit.
real quick before we end, I did want to comment. You mentioned that thing about the nepotism.
Yep.
It's not just you, and it's not just people in the industry. It's all of us watching the movies saying the same thing. If you pay attention to what a lot of the critics are saying, and they're talking about Pedro Pascal, and they're talking about Zendaya, and they're like, these people are in everything. We're sick of it,
Yeah,
Um,
it's the saturation of that too. Even ones that are not necessarily nepo babies, like Pedro Pascal is being cast in everything.
Yeah.
Why? He
Right.
doesn't have that great of a range. So
I would say the same
Yeah.
about Zendaya. She's okay, but
Mhm,
she's not great.
And the
Yeah.
weird girl.
Well, I don't know that she's going to be cast into anything in Hollywood anymore. She's probably going on to Broadway, and that's it with her. But I don't even want to get into some of the true nepo, because I might upset somebody by not liking the one that they like or whatever. But be that as it may, whenever somebody asks me who should be the next James Bond, who should be the next Superman, who should be the next whatever, especially Superman, you know who should be the next Superman? The next Christopher Reeve. Who was Christopher Reeve before he was Superman? Nobody knew him.
he was a theater actor.
Exactly. Now, I don't know anything about this Corn Sweat kid.
What a name!
I know, right?
I literally picture a cartoon Corn in the Cob sweating.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's nervous. He's about to pop, right? He looks the part. He looks fine. I have my concerns and reservations about this movie, but I would argue that if he pulls it off well and the movie does well, maybe he is the next Christopher Reeve.
And the thing is, you're not going to forget his name.
Well,
It's
no.
unusual enough that you're not going to forget it.
No, you do have a point there on that one. But yeah, I every time I hear commentary on a classic film, like, they had some crazy big names they were thinking of for Superman. They were talking about Paul Newman, Robert Redford, Clint Eastwood. And every time you hear that, you think, oh my God, that would have been terrible.
Because they're too old.
Well, no, at the time they weren't. But you can't,
Yeah,
you
they
couldn't
were.
divorce them from, who they were. Sometimes when they're that big a star, heck, I even forget the name Dirty Harry and I say Clint Eastwood when I mean Dirty Harry, So
Now, the reason they were considering them is because they were for sure confident box office draws, and that's not always going to be the best one.
that's
for the
no
role.
longer the case, because now they're casting so-called big name stars and nobody's going to the theaters.
Not as much. And I got into
Yeah.
an argument or discussion on a different live stream about this. What is a movie star and do they exist today? I think they do. It's just a mitigated version of it. Tom Cruise is still a movie star. It's just as big as he used to be, but he's still a movie star. The Mission Impossible 8 is the #1 movie that I'm anticipating this year. I would say that it's because of the lineage of the movies, but it's also because I know the caliber of what he brings, and I want to see that. That is an indication that he is still a movie star.
I agree with you. I've heard a lot of people, in fact, say that they think that Tom Cruise might be one of the last generation of big stars, unless something really changes in the industry. But
I would agree with that, certainly on that caliber, and that's part of the reasons why I have a voice and talking about the doors that are being shut on the new Tom Cruises of the acting world, and them uplifting actors that do not fill the range or role of leading man, such as Timothy Chalamet. That guy looks like he's 15 years old, and he's 29 years old, and he looks like a beta boy. He looks like he's in his pubescent years.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you're absolutely right.
And that's our leading man today.
I know, right? There might be a news piece talking about filming with him on Geeky Geezers this Sunday or not. We may drop it. I'm not sure, but Hollywood. I'm not sure Hollywood's the place I'd want to be a big star in these days. I think some things are definitely changing there, though. In fact, if you would be interested in coming back, maybe in a couple months or so, maybe that will be our topic: the future of Hollywood and where you think it's going.
But right now, if you all stay right here, you can be redirected to Deleted Scenes channel, so you can hear what's upcoming for him, which is pretty much every day of the week, almost 24/7, because the man never sleeps.
Right.
But until then, y'all know what I always say. We can talk amongst ourselves, and that's all well good and fun. But it's so much more fun when you guys are joining us in the chat, and you're dropping your comments, questions, trivia, being goofy, whatever it may be. And it doesn't feel like we're separated by miles or continents in some cases. Hi, Sashi. It feels like we're all hanging out in our family room. We're passing the popcorn and having a great time. And you guys, you're not just our friends. You're our family. We love you guys, and we appreciate you so very much. I mean, you can be anywhere right now, and you're here. That's so encouraging. I love seeing each of you guys in our streams. And if you're not here, I miss you. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of our family. And thank you for the many, many ways that you support us and our channels. And until next time, like I said, stay right here so you can be redirected to Deleted Scenes channel. Good night and God bless.